You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We do not have any new callers. I don't believe so. We're just going to go ahead and get started with 1265 Fan.
So what's your opinion on this?
On the grunt?
This sucks.
Check this out. Tell me what you think. Yes, it does suck. Sorry I'm laughing. I know you were in a pit of misery, but I've begun the coming out the other side process. So, you know, it is what it is, man.
Hey, man, it's Daniel from Milwaukee.
So,
I was just watching the end of this game, and, I mean, Quay Walker just went down for the second time in a row. I mean, it's like, you know, we just got out physical this game from the jump. Like, Keyshawn fumbled that kickoff return. And I just had a feeling of what it was going to be today. It was us getting manhandled by another team. I'm not going to sit there and say that it's the Packers of old where, you know, we just, you know, we're soft, we're weak. I mean, because Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft, they kind of killed that narrative, but we got out physical. The Eagles were just a tougher opponent. I mean, a tougher team. They manhandled us in every facet of the game. And now, I mean, we're done. So next year, I just think we need to load up on offensive line, defensive line, get maybe a corner early. So I know how that goes. But I mean, just didn't play with a lot of hurt today. I didn't see a lot of guys playing with a lot of hurt. So, all right, man. You have a great night. Go Pack, go.
yeah, I mean, the Packers have begun the process of shedding the soft label and moving toward a more physical, tough team, and I think they did a fantastic job. I don't think they're the most physical team in football. I think Baltimore is probably the most physical team. They're psychotically violent. Philly is probably number two. I mean, I don't know. I didn't go through all 32, but I'm just kind of picking the teams off the top of my head here. The Packers are you know, Philly is a gap below Baltimore. Green Bay's probably a gap below Philly, but I don't know that there's too many other teams that are more physical than the Packers. So, look, they're building in the right direction. I agree. I think they need to continue. I think we got to continue to build in the trenches. I'm so torn on offensive line. I want to love our offensive line because pass blocking is the most important thing, and they're very good at it. But when you can't just push guys out of the way in the run game, you really lack the physicality, and it's really hard to impose your physical identity. Now, I think Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins fit. I think Sean Ryan has the ability but has not shown the consistency. We know the center's got to go, and Rasheed Walker is the most difficult decision to make. However, we don't have a decision to make. I mean, you're going to draft offensive line, and then you're just going to go from there. It's not like you can snap your fingers and change everything overnight. But I think at the very least we have to find a center that can really smash people in the mouth. We got to find pass rushers that can win one-on-ones. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. I haven't started recording yet, but I listened to Matt LaFleur's press conference. That's one of the things. You know, he's always very evasive on things that he'll answer, but he was very clear about the pass rush was not good enough, and we need guys that can win one-on-ones. And we obviously didn't have that, and I think that was evident. And, you know, maybe it's the whole scheme change thing or whatever, but I think you know, every once in a while there's always an excuse for why maybe things happen. You know, it's kind of similar. I think wide receiver would be a good example last year, where you look at it and go, do we really want to get wide receiver because we might have the guys? And you kind of come to the point where it's like, well, why don't we just get wide receivers? And if we already have them and we get them, then I guess, oh, shucks, we have too many. I don't know what else to say. I mean, if you go out and get a premier pass rusher and Rashawn takes a huge step in year 2 of this scheme, is that a bad thing? Of course not. In fact, it's almost necessary. I was thinking about this earlier. Getting one good pass rusher almost does nothing. It's exact same thought I had about getting one good elite receiver. It kind of does nothing by itself. The thought occurred to me when we were all kind of making fun of, not all of us, but making fun of the Vikings or Packers fans in some regard about the wide receiver 1 narrative, because the Vikings have a wide receiver 1, and guess what? Their offense didn't do very well. Now, obviously, in this case, it was largely the quarterback who was just awful in this game. I mean, Darnold looked like peak Darnold in that game, but I think the other argument is, well, they double-teamed him all game. Well, the problem with the number 1 wide receiver is that as much as we all envision number 1 wide receivers as these guys that get 1,500 yards and 50 touchdowns and all that, the problem is a number 1 wide receiver a lot of times is a guy that just gets double-teamed all game. And if you can get away with doing that because they have no way of attacking you otherwise, it doesn't matter. So the point is with the Packers, if you can go get a number 1 wide receiver, great. But all that means is we're going to have more opportunities to get the same guys open, and they're already open anyways. So what does that do for us? It's kind of like you either got to fix the problem that you have first, or you need 2 really good wide receivers. And now we're kind of getting a little into crazy territory. It's like when you buy this $1,000 car, and it's like, well, I don't want to go buy a new one, so, it's a $500 repair. I'll just pay it. And then there's something else wrong, and it's like, well, now it's a $1,500 repair, and it's like, bro, I don't think I can do that. I think at some point you just buy a new car, you know what I mean? Or in this case, just fix. It's kind of the opposite analogy. It doesn't matter. And so with pass rush, I mean, you go get Max Crosby, and Max Crosby can occasionally beat a double team. But if all they have to do is chip Max Crosby or double Max Crosby, and it doesn't matter because nobody else can win their one-on-ones, which is Matt LaFleur's concern anyways, it doesn't matter. So anyways, that's kind of an aside. But point is, it's not a big deal if you load up and also guys take a step. In fact, it's kind of necessary.
The nightmare absolutely continues. Meyer's done. His ankle.
Yeah.
You know what? Seriously, man. That losing Jenkins, I mean, the domino effect of that has just been brutality, because I do think, I'm not going to excuse how badly Love played here, but I mean, I absolutely think he's seen ghosts, and then when he does make a good play, it's holding, and then when Jacobs makes a good play, it's holding, and then, that play was a direct result of just replacement level players at left guard. So, I mean, I can certainly understand when he has the yips. The first interception is kind of like, it's kind of like a punt. It's a damn good catch. Second one is just inexplicable. The high throw to Heath is terrible. I don't know if I forgive it. I can give a level of understanding with the interior pressure, especially on the left side. But oh, geez, man, you're listening. I mean, tell me, Ryan, for the future, how many more guys are we going to lose? What are we, 9 now?
It's
9
wild.
starters or something?
Wild.
How many more guys are we going to lose here? Good Lord.
Yeah, and that was kind of like what I was talking about, where we win, now what? Are we going to go on to beat the next best team? Are we going to beat Detroit with nobody? I don't know. I maybe, but I would have doubted it if that would have been a thing.
What's going on, Joe Mount Firefighter? I said I was trying to wait as long as possible to call before the game's over. I'm not mad at that last interception because I just know he's just throwing it up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it is what it is. The game was already over. By then, injuries killed us, and basically injuries and bad play from people who never get to play, which is kind of almost like, well, they got to play against the Bears, maybe they play a little tiny bit better. But anyway, all I'm going to say is this. I'm proud of the defense. The defense played way better than I thought they would have. We shut down. I feel like we did a good job against Saquon. Did a good job with their wide receivers. We did a pretty good job, so I'm not mad. I think we got a good defensive coordinator. Now we just got to get some pieces. So we need,
Yep.
I know the defense played good, but I still would like us to add a cornerback. Hopefully we can keep Jair as well. Adding the cornerback, keeping Jair, win. Adding some defensive line help, which is, guess what? This draft has deep defensive ends, deep defensive line. So that's good for us. So we can get a starting one good quality, even probably in the third round. That's how deep it is. Unfortunately, it's not deep in wide receiver, which we also need. So hopefully with wide receiver, I hope that we pick up one in free agency, the best one we can get in free agency. Then I hope we draft, like straight up. I hope we draft like 2. I got one guy that we could probably get in the second round. I would love to get, what's the guy out of Ohio State, Yamika Abuka. I would love to let's get him. He could be a number 1 fast guy with good hands. But he's going to probably be gone by like the 16th, and we're picking in the 20s. So anyway, it's a dude named Alec Ameyer from Stanford. We could probably get him in the second round, and he kind of reminds me of a little bit of Dobbs. He doesn't break a lot of tackles, but he catches the ball. He's big, like 6'2".
I think every year I kind of go in with an emphasis. I look at, it usually has to do with what we failed in. So like I've said before, when I looked at quarterbacks before, it wasn't necessarily a failure, but it was, well, I guess it kind of was what Rodgers was failing at and what Jordan was good at. So when I looked at quarterbacks, it was like one main thing, which was, timing and rhythm and accuracy and all that. For receiver this year, I mean, I've got my baseline of what I like to see in a receiver, but there's got to just be the ability to, first of all, catch everything and catch everything, right? It's catch, I mean, a high percentage of the things thrown at you, so very, very low drops, but also like inaccurate passes, high passes, low passes you got to dive for. Make sure you get your feet down in bounds, right? That whole thing. I mean, it's one of those things where I usually caution away from like highlight reel type stuff. Kind of looking for a highlight reel guy. That's kind of what I feel like we're needing on this team right now.
So he can like get open, kill in the zone and everything. I think he'd be a good wide receiver for us to get in the second round. And, I know our GM always double and triples down, but just get some good players. And then definitely, like I said, center, need to get a center. And luckily it's deep in defensive tackles as well, according to PFF. It's deep in offensive tackles and deep in defensive ends. And DBs. So we just need to fix this wide receiver problem. Unfortunately, both our 2 number 1 guys can't really be number 1s. And unfortunately for them, I don't think neither one of them getting a contract extension, at least right now. So they're going to have to play out their last year deals. But hopefully,
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm on board with everything, but you started talking drafts, and I had to go down that pathway here. So it's funny because a lot of times I'll jump to PFF. My first thing is let's run over to PFF and let's just see who's really good, like who grades out really well. And you find somebody like, all right, is this going to be like a first round, second round, third round guy? And it's like, I can't find them on the list. And sometimes he's literally not on the list. Maybe he could be a tackle. I doubt that. Decided to return. Darn. I liked him. Well, as far as the interior offensive line go, I understand the Packers. I mean, first of all, they're going to get whatever they want. I mean, I hate to tell Gutekunst to spend more time on PFF, but they drafted Josh Myers. I went to PFF, and I was like, what the heck is this? He's not good. I don't understand. I looked at the top 5 run-blocking centers that are expected to be or that are draft eligible in 2025. One of them went back. 3 of them are not on the list at all, maybe because they went back. I don't know. I didn't look. And then one of them is ranked 816th. But bottom line is I would love it if we could move in the direction of, and I understand centers are generally smaller, athletic guys. You need them to get up to the next level, all of that stuff. Like I understand that. But some of them are good run blockers too, Maybe I'm asking too much, and if I am, I apologize. But sometimes they are. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back, and we got our less.
Hey, Ryan, it's Arliss again, man. Sorry about my last call. I was going somewhere with that. I ran out of time, and I kind of got distracted with my little emotional rant. but there's about like a minute left in the game, and I'm kind of got myself together, man. What I'm about to say is what I've been thinking about for most of the season, with the exception of a few games where we kind of dominated. But I know it's just one season, maybe, yeah, one season. Let's just say one, right? I won't count the ones and twosies from last season, but I think LaFleur's got another full year of safety. I think Jordan Love's got all of next year to be safe. But I do believe that inside of the front office, they're wondering if LaFleur is the guy to get them to the next level, and they're wondering if Love is the guy to get them to the next level. And I think that's legitimate. That's a legitimate case, you know, for any of us to argue for or against. But I just don't believe after this season, Love has had a few good moments, right? But he's mostly has played subpar to just average. I know numbers will show differently, but we had a lot of fourth quarter comebacks, right? Or a lot of fourth quarter games where we kind of, you know, we shrunk the score, we narrowed the margin of our loss. And I think a lot of that, minus the Vikings game, was just the other team kind of knowing that, like, you know, we're going to win. Kind of like us with the Cowboys game last year. Cowboys scored like 2 touchdowns. We knew at any point we could turn it back on and shut it down. But they narrowed the score a little bit. And I think we did that with like our Detroit games and a couple other games. The Minnesota game, there was no garbage time. You know, they were actually defending. But all that to say is that I don't right now believe that the Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur combination is going to get us over the hump. They'll have all next year to prove me wrong, probably prove the front office wrong and everybody else wrong, but I just see something in LaFleur that I don't know if he can correct. And that is preparing a team and, you know, installing a level of discipline that is required of champions. Right? I think of the Patriots. I think of the Packers when we went on our Super Bowl run. I think of all the Chiefs, all these other teams where they have a mentality, a culture, where, and I would imagine even a system where they instill the fundamentals of being a champion, and that's discipline, showing up, knowing your assignments, all of these things.
He did not call back, and yeah, I mean, I mean, all this is going to come down to, I mean, number one, as you said, how they do in the future, but also what is the perception of the leadership. I just had Mr. Negative sent me something on Facebook. I didn't read it all because it was very long, but something to the effect of, you know, Policy is going to come in and he's going to clean house, you know, after this year, if it's the same thing, he's going to clean house. I mean, I don't know what his perspective on things is. I mean, I have my perspective and you have yours, and Policy has his, and I don't know what it is. Maybe Gutekunst doesn't believe in LaFleur. Maybe Policy doesn't believe in Gutekunst or LaFleur. And look, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I have a belief as to where things are right now. That's obviously subject to change. I've said that about Gutekunst, right? I mean, I like Gut, but there's going to come a time when I don't like Gut, just like with Ted Thompson. Ted Thompson was a phenomenal GM. Down the stretch, it was terrible. It was really bad. And everybody has that, you know. Everybody has their moment of being that dude, and then, the NFL just, it's hard to keep up. It's hard for any one person to keep up with the NFL. You know, there's newer, younger, more innovative people that come along and change the way things are done, and that's how it goes. And I think Gutekunst has stayed afloat. Like I said, my one critique is, you know, the lack of sort of elite talent, but I think he's made up for that with free agency, right? You get a guy like Edgerrin, okay, cool, we got one on the board. And then you add 2 guys in free agency, okay, cool. As long as you're bringing them into the team, we'll count it. And you're still hitting at a pretty high rate as far as the draft is concerned, as far as at least contributors, with some of them being good to high-level contributors. But, you know, I mean, if guys don't start panning out and it's a bad draft class, and some of the guys from this year's draft class or last year's draft class, whatever, 2024, come in next year and it's like our first round pick is no good and that running back is no good and Tyron Hopper is no good and, it turns out that, Bullard is no good and Evan Williams was just kind of a flash in the pan and, this draft class isn't, we got to have different conversations. Right now, I'm not ready to have that conversation. And right now, I don't think Matt LaFleur has done anything wrong. Although, like we said yesterday, it's possible that some of the issues are stemming from LaFleur, but I would have to be in the building to know that. And I don't care if that's your perspective. I can't tell you you're wrong because I don't know. But that also means I can't say that I know that Ed Policy won't come in and want to make some changes. Obviously, I'm scared of losing offensive production. But Matt LaFleur is not the best coach in football, and there are going to be young or newer coaches that come along that are going to get opportunities that are going to be great. And although I think it's possible or more likely that we go backwards than forwards, whatever. If they decide to go in another direction, I'm going to be prepared. I hate to give up this opportunity for a team that I know has it in them to go win, especially a very young team that has everything in front of them in terms of their ability to go build. They have so much money. They're in a great spot to add talent, to identify where the weaknesses are and go build and see what happens. I don't know. I'm not worried about it. My mind's not even there right now. I am concerned about Jordan, but we'll see. I mean, he's played at a high level, and I don't know why sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But there's a reason, and I'm hopeful that they can identify that, and we can explore a couple of those. Like I said, I thought it was an interesting thing that Christian's dad brought up about, they didn't pass enough to get into a rhythm. Well, what do you do about that? I mean, we did run a ton this year, and it was great, and I thought it was a good thing. But maybe not throwing is hurting Jordan, especially when he gets hurt and he's not practicing as much, especially when his receivers are hurt and they're not practicing as much. And, you try to get into a rhythm. And it's hard to get into a rhythm when guys are either hurt or just not playing well or, you have to make constant changes and you're not throwing as much to begin with and you're not practicing because you and everybody else are hurt. Maybe it's just excuse making or maybe that's the problem. I don't know. But at the end of the day, 2025 is not going to have anything to do with overhauling. I get what you're saying as far as if next year goes south. And certainly if we miss the playoffs, we got to put all options on the table. I don't think we can repeat this year in terms of like the level of success. And then to me, it wouldn't, if we kind of sail into the playoffs with roughly as many wins, and I do expect Minnesota to regress, although probably just going to run Daniel Jones out there and win 13 games or something. Freaking Vikings, man. I don't know anything about that team. No idea how they're doing what they're doing. But we are going to laugh at them probably tomorrow, actually. But we'll see, man. We're talking 2026. We got to we got to begin talking about 2025. You know what I mean? Beer Cheese Benny, what's up, man?
Hey, Ryan, Beer Cheese Benny here. Just absolutely a pathetic showing by the Green Bay Packers. What the hell, Love? I'm giving Love one more year, dude. That was so pathetic. On the fourth down there, well, first of all, why the play calling on the third down before where he threw it high to Heath, freaking high. Seriously, dude, that's just cannot happen. Then you run it with our third string running back or second string running back, when our offense hasn't been able to block that crap all freaking night. Truly, truly pathetic. And then everybody's getting hurt. That pissed me off. I'm not even going to be mad at the defense. I really am not. They were awesome. They were freaking amazing. What are you supposed to do when they keep putting you on the field? Again, your offense is your greatest defense. Well, our defense was great, so I'm not going to say anything about that other than the stupidity of Slayton. I was already pissed off. That pissed me off even more. And then the phantom call on, I don't know who was it, Quay, when Saquon was near the sideline, was just made up. And then to start the game, freaking Nixon, dummy, fumbles. I mean, it was stupid, and they didn't call targeting. And then on top of it, he recovers the ball, and after replay, they still freaking get it wrong. So we're screwed from the start.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get mad at Nixon. I think that dude was temporarily knocked unconscious, and that's why he dropped the ball. And then he snapped to and had the wherewithal to go grab it, and the refs just completely botched that entire thing.
They get a good field position. They're up 7-0. And then our offense, totally inept. Jordan Love, inept, incompetent. O-line, terrible. No heart, no fight, no life. Just no giving a crap. They didn't want it, man. They had Cancun on their mind. And I'm sick of this, dude. You know, like, LaFleur is on the hot seat. I hope you realize that, because you cannot keep doing this. You cannot keep showing up to important games and then just looking like the frickin' Carolina Panthers. What the hell is this, dude? I know this is not that team. I know it. I know we're better. And that's why it frickin' pisses me off, because I've seen what we can do. I've seen it. I don't know what it's going to take, man. I don't know if you can even draft into fixing this. This is just undisciplined football. We need Vince Lombardi to come straight out of the frickin' grave and chew Matt LaFleur out. And tell him how it's done. This is unacceptable. Sorry for cussing. Oh, I'm pissed off, dude. We cannot keep doing this every year, man.
Yeah, again, I get it. I don't know. I mean, I think it gets a lot harder when you get into the nuance of stuff. You know, first of all, again, you know, not showing up is not a 100% thing, because a lot of people did show up. Do you blame Matt LaFleur if 3 people don't show up? What if one of them is your quarterback? And that's the big reason why it didn't happen. On top of that, some of the people that did show up are injured. Your number 1 receiver, your number 2 receiver, your number 3 receiver is hurt. Your running back shows up, but that's stunted by the fact that your right tackle didn't show up, which is really one of his only bad games of the year. Your left guard went out injured. Your center went out injured. Basically your entire defense did show up. So, you know, I get what you're saying. I don't know. Only a select few people didn't play well, and I don't know why they didn't play well, and I don't know if that's the coach's responsibility to make sure that, I mean, everybody's properly motivated? I mean, do we even know that they were unmotivated? They looked unmotivated, but it could have been jitters. It could have been, I don't know what it is. I don't know why. And, you know, in the case of Jordan, it's not even that they didn't show up for big games. He's been playing bad for 3 straight games. So I don't know what that is. And in addition to that, I mean, there are only it's not like, well, if your guys fall off in a playoff game, then you're a bad coach. It's really a very rare group of coaches that seem to have their guys. I mean, Kevin O'Connell is arguably the best coach. I mean, not quite. I mean, Andy Reid's probably the best coach in football, but Kevin O'Connell is phenomenal. What happened to his team in this playoff game? And should he be on the hot seat? From my perspective, absolutely not. That's insane. That's crazy. He's a phenomenal coach. You figure out what happened and you try to address that, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I think the Packers are in a similar situation with Matt LaFleur. You might disagree, I don't know, but losing in a playoff game is just what happens most of the time when you're a team that goes to the playoffs most of the time. You lose most of the time, unless you're the Chiefs or the Patriots for the last 20 years. And the Vikings, they did it again. The 49ers are usually that team. They didn't even get to the playoffs this year. Should Shanahan be fired? I personally don't think so. But some people might think so. I don't know. I just feel like, if you look at it from the standpoint of fixing a car, we're trying to figure out how to get this thing working as efficiently as possible. I remember when I started fixing medical equipment, one of the things when I did my internship that I was told is kind of twofold. Number 1, start with the easiest thing first, and number 2, start with the cheapest thing first. Because you don't really know every time. Usually you don't know at all what the problem is. If you're hearing like a squeaking noise in your car and you don't know what it is, I would recommend you don't start by throwing away the engine and getting a new one. And if that doesn't fix it, let's just replace the transmission. Let's start with some belts. You know what I mean? And we went through the example with the 49 or with the Jets and the Bears, right? The Jets are having some problems. Well, fire the coach. What did that do? It fixed nothing, and it made your defense go from one of the best the best team over the last however long he's been there to one of the worst defenses in football. That's all they accomplished. They did nothing else. They didn't fix any of the problems. They just made the one thing that was working not work anymore. And then the Bears did the exact same thing. Well, the coach is obviously the problem. So they got rid of the offensive coordinator, fixed nothing. Okay, let's get rid of the coach. The culture got worse. The offense got worse. The defense got significantly worse. What did you just fix? Nothing. And I know the hope is, well, all we got to do is go get that coach that's perfect. Go get a coach that is an elite play caller and a great leader of men and a guy that's always going to make sure his team is prepared and disciplined and just, never fails at anything. It's like, well, yeah, I guess. The Bears have been trying that forever. They've been throwing away quarterbacks and finding new ones and throwing away coaches and finding new ones and throwing away GMs and finding new ones, throwing away presidents and finding new ones. Let's just slow down. Let's get very specific in the things that didn't work. And let's also look at the things that did work, and let's try to maximize the good, minimize the bad, and minimize the amount of work that we have to do to turn this around. Because if you just throw this whole thing away and start a full rebuild, all you're doing is throwing everything away. You're throwing away your playoffs, you're throwing away winning football games, you're throwing away all that in hopes that we can just start over and we have less competent people doing things and we turn into you understand, most teams are not good. The Packers are shockingly rare in their ability to consistently do what they do. If you throw everything away, the odds that you're going to be just like all these other teams that do not go to the playoffs every year, much less win the Super Bowl every year, or ever for that matter, is exceedingly high. And I'll I guess summarize in a way with this. I don't need to create other reasons where there's problems when I already have been able to identify a major problem. And we all know it, and we all saw it, and we can pretend it's not real, and we can talk about other things, and that's fine, but there's a major issue. Going back to the car thing, it's like we're driving with a flat tire, and it's like, I don't know, I think I'm hearing other noises. Why don't we make some repairs over here, and, well, we'll replace the engine and, the steering column, and let's, it's like, you know what? Let's fix the tire first, and let's see how it goes, because when you have a flat tire, you're going to hear a lot of noises, and you're going to have a lot of other damage, and, things are going to just ride better, and sound better, and feel better, and be better when you fix the tire. So let's just fix the tire, let's calm down, and let's see how that goes. We have one major issue, and it's a passing offense. Let's fix that. Okay? Let's just fix it. Well, the culture's a problem. The culture's a problem because you're not winning, and we're not winning because we're not passing. Let's just fix the frickin' tire. All right? And let's see how it goes. And I'll tell you what, if Jordan Love is making accurate throws, but guys just aren't open, if he's making accurate throws and there's drops, if he's taking too much pressure and too many sacks because the offensive line can't block, if these things are happening, we can start talking about other solutions. But right now, I'm seeing a guy that is very rarely under pressure because he has a very good offensive line. I'm seeing a quarterback that has options as far as wide receivers being open. As far as the drops, it's a problem. It's not as big as we'll get to it tomorrow or the next day or whatever. There was some claim that it's significantly worse than it is, but it's not good. It's not the worst in football. I can promise you that, and we'll get to that. I don't know where that came from. But as far as, if you throw an accurate ball, they'll catch it. That generally, I think, is the case. At least it has been the second half of the season. Almost every single drop that we've been arguing about lately has been whether or not it's the quarterback's responsibility to throw a better ball or not. Well, if it was an accurate ball, we wouldn't even be having the discussion. I am of the belief if Jordan was playing better, we would have a great defense, a great pass game, a great run game, and we'd be winning a lot of games and we'd still be in the playoffs. Maybe that's wrong, but I can't bring us to an alternate timeline to see if that would have been the case. But unless and until I see that, I'm not going to start talking about every other thing that maybe could possibly be going on because I have no reason to know or believe that maybe, and maybe policy hates LaFleur and he's like, everybody in this locker room hates everybody and they hate LaFleur and nobody's motivated and they're just sleeping and napping and Nobody actually cares, and there's no passion, and that's LaFleur's fault, not anybody else's fault, and so that's what we need to do. But there's like 700 assumptions in there, and I don't know if any of them are true. So, again, I can't give you anything more than I guess maybe. But also, it ain't going to happen in 2025. We're not getting a new quarterback, at least not a starting one. We may draft one. Not saying first round, but it's possible. We drafted one last year. We're not getting a new starting quarterback. We're not getting a new coach. We're not getting a new GM. But we do have a new man in charge, and he's going to be looking over everything, and he's going to have to make some determinations, and we'll see how 2025 goes, and we'll recalibrate. Because that's what we got to do. We can't get too stuck in our positions. I don't think Matt LaFleur is the problem. I don't think Gutekunst is the problem. But if things are going in the wrong direction, you can't just be a defender for the sake of being a defender. Things change, and your opinion needs to change with that. I'm just saying, as of right now, I have not seen anybody bring anything to me that would move me off of my spot, I guess. All right, let's take a break. We got Omar on the other side.
But yeah, we can continue on. As I was saying, I do believe in our future. I don't feel like we're terrible. Love, he played better than he did last time, but I guess not. The offensive line being like getting their butt whipped. Like even Zach Tom, who was great.
Yeah, that was rough, man.
Didn't have a real good game for whatever reason. I don't know why.
And because I'm probably going to forget to talk about it, one of the things that Matt LaFleur talked about is the fact that the team that we went up against rushed for almost the entire game, and they hardly ever had to blitz. On the other hand, we are one of the more blitz teams in football. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, maybe that's because Jordan can't handle the blitz, and that's possible. It's also possible that maybe you just can't beat our offensive line if you don't blitz, and so that's why everybody has to do it. And think about that. If your plan is we're going to try to rush for, but we're probably going to have to bring some blitzes because this is a really good offensive line, what happens if you whip Zach Tom on the first play? Now all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, we don't have to bring a blitz anymore, which means they get to keep more guys in coverage, which makes everything else more difficult because your offensive line, win percentage is great as far as like what percentage of the time was your quarterback pressured. But it also there's additional context, whereas I think the Packers are above and beyond better than most because they're blitzed more than everybody and they still have a very low pressure rate. In this game, I don't know what the pressure numbers were. I haven't looked, but they were getting beat with just 4. So in other words, it's worse than it would appear as far as their drop off from their normal standard. And yes, of course, injuries played into that. But Zach Tom, man, I don't know what to do. What to even say about that.
But having like bad offensive linemen that really messed us up. Jacobs did incredible with like the offensive line play that not being top notch. So if you could actually get a great center and good guard play, man, he'd tear the league up. He can do 2,000 yards easy. So I believe we're going to next year, and hopefully Jordan Love feel comfortable about his passing, and he'll do better next year. So everybody don't get all depressed. It's over. We made playoffs, made a good run. But they're looking forward to your draft update and positional needs and everything like that. Anyway, go. All right, bye.
Yeah, and everything changes from year to year. I mean, all of us, myself included, get in this like, if this continues on forever, then this is the situation. The problem is almost nothing stays the same. Jordan ended the season last year as the best quarterback in football. He ended the season this year on a very low note, right? I mean, it was only 3 games, so I'm not going to play the game of like, how does he end over the last 3 weeks? But it probably wouldn't be very good. The Minnesota Vikings are supposed to be the worst team in football because they had Sam freaking Darnold as their starting quarterback, and look at what they did. The Jets were supposed to be a great team because they get Aaron Rodgers, and they got this great defense, and look at what happened. They got somehow worse with Aaron Rodgers than with Zach Wilson, and I honestly, to this day, don't know how that happened, but it did happen. So, we just got to wait and see, man. I mean, there's too many variables here. There's too many guys some of them are going to get better, some of them are going to get worse, and we don't know which ones are going to be which. Maybe Rashawn gets worse, maybe Rashawn gets better. Maybe Jordan gets worse, maybe Jordan gets better. And that's true of every single player, plus the new guys we're bringing in, plus the coaching staff and the turnover. There's going to be some of our front office guys getting hired away, which means we might be bringing in some new guys, possibly some coaches. It seems relatively unlikely, but I know our offensive coordinator has at least one interview lined up with the Chicago Bears. 2025 is going to bring some changes, and we don't know exactly. I mean, look at how different this year was than last year for almost every single reason. I mean, look at our safety situation and how different that is. Look how different our linebacker situation is. Look at how different our defensive front is. I mean, we used to have like I said, like everybody had at least a 10% pressure rate in Green Bay, and if you didn't, you were a scrub. Now, trying to find one guy was like a miracle. Look at the change in running back, and you know, more things were different than the same, and that's going to be true next year too. We're going to have a bunch of new people in the draft, a bunch of new people through free agency. We're going to have a bunch of people that leave. And then on top of that, like I said, you got guys getting better and guys getting worse. So, yes, it's true. If we just freeze frame exactly what this team ended the season at, not forget every other game. Let's just look at the last 3 games. And if we freeze frame that and say, if everything stays exactly like this, we're going to be bad. Yes, that's true. I don't know the point of the statement, though. And like I said, I'm guilty of that, too. I mean, it's true, but so what if it's true, right? I don't know.
What's up? It's Aaron from Eau Claire. Just got done watching the Packers-Eagles game. A difficult loss to swallow. Couple thoughts. One is I don't think this youngest team in the league thing is working. It's good enough to get some wins in the regular season, but the lack of experience and confidence or whatever showed. I'm just making a lot of mistakes like turnovers and stuff like that. You know, I feel like when you look at a team like the Eagles, it almost feels like there's no way they're going to like turn the ball over. Like, I don't know what gives me that feeling, but like when they're running the ball, I'm like, they're not going to drop it. You know, they're not going to cough it up. I mean, it'd be very unlikely. I don't know why they just seem like they're more secure with that aspect of the game. But also, if you think about, you know, who basically salvaged our season when we were struggling in different games, the 3 players were Brandon McManus, Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney. 3 players that the Packers did not draft that had already spent some time in the league. So, the importance of having a mixture of kind of that youthful energy and experience, I think, has been proven out over the course of the year. I think also.
Well, I'll just say what I've said 1,000 times. The Packers didn't set out to be the youngest team in football. That's just how it happened to set out. And it's I mean, first of all, somebody has to be the youngest team in football. And in this case, it's a team that had a bunch of old people that needed to go, right? I mean, we're not saying they were wrong in letting these people go, right? I mean, I can't think of anybody that we probably should have kept. So that was the right decision. And then we had 1 billion draft picks. We have 11 picks every single year. So we have a flood of young people coming in. On top of that is like, well, we could go out and do things in free agency. We did. We spent every dollar that we had in free agency. So, I mean, I don't know, again, when we get into specifics, what exactly should they have done differently? Assuming they didn't set out to do this on purpose, it's just the way that it ended up. And it's not a bad thing. It is a good thing. It makes it a little bit more difficult. But also, I mean, you know, we say youngest team, but a lot of that just has to do with not having a bunch of old people. We have like no old people on the team, and there's no value in being an old person. Veteran experience, sure, but we have veteran experience on this team. I mean, we have a huge group of people that are coming up at the end of their rookie contracts. I mean, Christian Watson is not a rookie. He is not an inexperienced person. He spent more time in the playoffs than a lot of people who've been in the league for 5, 6, 7, 8 years that have never been to the playoffs. You know, Josh Jacobs is a great vocal leader and an experienced guy. He's 26. He's part of the reason we're a young team. I mean, you mentioned Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. They're both part of the reason we're a young team because they're young players. So, you know, I don't know. I don't want to go out and get old people for the sake of being old. There's some value in experience, but there's a lot of guys that have experience, and I don't know if 10 years of experience is much better than 4, 5, 6 years of experience, especially since everybody's different. You got some 40-year-olds that are just scumbag idiots that have no value to your team whatsoever, and there's young people that come in out of college that just have a great mentality and can be a vocal leader. So I think it's the type of person that you want more so than anything, and I think maybe there was a type that has been missing in Green Bay. I do think Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs brought that, which is part of the reason they were brought in here. And Matt LaFleur did mention that some people need to step up and be more vocal, like Jordan Love. He's going to try to push to be more of a vocal leader. Other people that do things the right way, they want them to step into the leadership role because they want other people to follow their lead as opposed to maybe some of the other loud people that don't always do things the best way. So again, like just the way that you phrase it in terms of like this whole young people thing didn't turn out right. Well, again, that wasn't the goal. That's what we are, and it is a benefit to the team moving forward, even if it wasn't necessarily a huge benefit now. And look, there's a go look at old teams. Are old teams winning right now? I mean, the Vikings are one of the oldest teams in football, which is hilarious, by the way. They got embarrassed the same way we did. They got veterans you know how many veterans they went out and bought? They bought like 40-year-olds. I mean, half their team are 30-year-old guys that they just picked up this year or last year. I'm not even kidding about that. And so what? What did it do? I don't want to get into this mode of things didn't go the way I want, so everything we did is wrong, and we need to do the opposite of everything we did. It's like in The Office where, they're looking for a new general manager or branch manager, and they had to get rid of Gabe. And what's her name that was the CEO of the company at the time said, go get Kelly. She can be part of the committee. And like, why Kelly? Like, well, Gabe's tall and weak, and she's short and strong. I'm doing an opposites thing. I don't want to just do an opposites thing for the Pack. Well, we're young, and that didn't work, even though we were very good. It didn't work as far as us winning a Super Bowl, so now let's be old. And I know that's not what you're saying, but in a way, it's still kind of like, well, it's just because that's the thing, and because we didn't win, then the thing is the problem. Well, we have to identify for sure that is a problem first. And I don't know that it is. We're just saying that it is. If there is a leadership problem, and I don't know that there is, then we need leaders. I don't care if they're 22 or 32. If it's an experience problem, I don't know what exactly that brings, except for that one person. You can't give people experience. You can try to impart wisdom, but, I mean, how much value is that honestly going to give? I mean, let's say we brought in Devontae Adams and had him try to coach up the wide receivers. I mean, do we really think all our wide receivers are going to make a massive jump because Devontae is going to, like, give them a couple tips? I don't think so. And again, if that's what we think, then just show me. I don't know. How did that work for the Raiders? How did that work for the Jets? Did anybody get better when Devontae got there? I don't think so. Did any of our guys get worse when Devontae left? I don't think so. And again, it was a problem before because we had the old guys and they were old and rich and disgruntled. Now we got rid of the young guys and we don't have the old guys, so now we don't have experience, and so now that's the problem. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a theory, I guess.
EJ Slayton, part of me thinks he should just get released and cut by the team as a message to the players for next year.
I agree.
Like, because he, caused that 15-yard penalty for personal foul, and it was completely unnecessary. They'd stopped the other team, and at some point they just need to cut the guy and say, look, we can't, if you guys do this, you're next.
Well, and I think they've been doing that like every year. I mean, they did it with Za'Darius. I speculate that it was part of the Rasul thing. I mean, who the heck else was there? There was somebody else that's floating around other than Za'Darius, I thought. Who the heck is it, though? I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, guys that become kind of cancerous to some degree or another, the Packers generally seem to have a zero tolerance thing on it and send them out the door. Now, you could say that maybe Jair is one, but again, I don't know that he is. And maybe they should have cut him on the spot. I mean, that's kind of a different thing. I mean, Slayton is a no-brainer because you're not paying him, and he's never been that good. So, I mean, that's easy. But either way, whether they're doing it or not or whatever, I agree that they need to. I mean, even if he was a model citizen, I think they need to cut him because he's just bad at football. But, yeah, there definitely needs to be a this isn't tolerated kind of thing going on. Make a public display of it,
That's my opinion. Then lastly, I really think they just need to invest a little bit of free agency money on the trenches. I think, the Eagles O-line and D-line are just so good. And it really gave Jalen Hurts a lot of time to work with. And even then, Jalen Hurts was, having a difficult time against our defense. I think, our defense did a lot of good things, but I think it would be nice to have more of a pass rush More big bodies. One second, I'll call back.
Yeah, I mean, look at the teams that are still in the show right now. You know, you've got Detroit, dominant in the trenches. You got Philly, dominant in the trenches. You got Baltimore, dominant in the trenches. I mean, it's, you know, the NFL seemed to want to get away from that a little bit and be all high flying, passing down the field and everything. And I think that this is in some sense it's kind of making a comeback, but also it's always kind of been a thing. I mean, you got to protect your quarterback. I mean, just imposing your will, whether it's a novel thing or, you know, a thing that we're returning to or a thing that's always been true, is irrelevant because it's definitely working right now, and I think we need it. And it's, you know, again, not only can we see that it's evident in other teams, but it's just intuitive. I mean, how do you beat a team that can beat you with 4 guys on their defensive line? You can't rush their quarterback, and you can't stop them from running. And you know, you can see in Philadelphia the benefit because, I mean, Saquon's a super talented guy, but you add in super talented and just very wide open holes to run through. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is very similar. He's not a bad running back by any stretch of the imagination. He would be nowhere near as good on most other teams. But he just runs. I mean, he's very fast. He's very evasive. And when there's lanes to run through, he thrives. And Josh Jacobs could absolutely be that as well. So yeah, I'm all in on the trenches, man. I really am. I don't have a problem with getting a wide receiver. I don't have a problem, obviously, with corner. We have to address it. I desperately want trenches, right? I mean, the run defense was good, and we were able to generate pressure with blitzing and all that stuff. But we have to be able to get home with 4, and I really just want to impose on the offensive line. Just my preference. I don't know. Maybe you can talk me out of it, some of you.
The only men that gave a damn on our offense were Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed. I would say Wicks, actually. He looked like he was fighting for the ball, doing pretty good. And that's about it. Just no giving a damn. It was so clear that they were unprepared. So clear. And I don't know, now I even question the talent. You know, we might actually have to keep drafting O-linemen. Because I don't know if I can trust this O-line, bro. And now all our O-linemen are hurt now. Who knows how bad
Well, I mean, this is a perfect example of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, Zach Tom is really the issue here, right? I mean, Elton Jenkins got hurt, so you can't blame him. Rashid played exactly like Rashid always plays. I mean, and then the center and right guard, I think we've always been assuming we're going to need to change. I mean, that unless this is a change of heart for you, maybe, I don't know, but no, I'm not changing anything from the original plan. Zach Tom had a bad day. No chance in the world I'm throwing out a top 3, possibly number 1 right tackle in the NFL because he had a bad day in the playoffs. Because, you know, I can't trust him in the playoffs or whatever. I feel like, I mean, to me, that's the same argument people are making about Matt LaFleur. Like, okay, he's good, but what if he can't play in the postseason, then what good is he? Like, I'm not having that discussion. I don't know. Not saying you're saying that. I don't know who else we'd be talking about.
is. Who freaking knows? And then we're going to have, the media is going to sit there and be like, instead of asking the hard questions, they'll be like, hey, Matt, where'd you get your haircut? Like, what kind of crap is this, dude? I can't stand this. I can't stand this. Love freaking missing guys wide open and throwing, always has to make the hard throw, always has to make it freaking difficult. Just can never take what the defense gives him. I guarantee you, man, if you look at the tape, he missed so many wide open guys that he could have thrown to, and instead he throws to the hardest one. I don't get it. And then just chuck it 50 yards.
I didn't go back and look at this one. So I don't know. And I don't know. I mean, I probably should, but I don't know how much I'm going to be able to take away from him. I mean, even if nobody was open and it was a bad Matt LaFleur day, again, everybody can have a bad day. I don't even know. I'm assuming I'm going to see a lot of stuff that Jordan didn't do right, and in which case that doesn't change anything. I don't know what I could see that would make me have a change of opinion of any one individual person. maybe feel better about Jordan if things went a certain way. But just what I saw live, I doubt that's going to happen. But I don't know. It's worth a try, I guess.
Downfield, why don't we, like, let's just not even show fight. Like, oh, screw it. Let me just throw this down. If it gets intercepted, whatever, we lost anyway. There's no giving a damn, no care. Nah, I don't care what anyone says, man. Matt LaFleur, he's either got to get better or we got to get something better than that. I don't think we can, honestly. We can't get rid of LaFleur, but Hafley balled out for us, man, and the rest of the defense. I love our defense. We could add a few more pieces.
I mean, that's an underrated or under-talked about thing, at least so far. You know, how many times have I talked about, like, the Chiefs' defense where you look and go, you know, I obviously PFF is not perfect, but they shouldn't be as good as they are with the talent they have. Look at the Packers' defense. How many great pieces do you think you're going to find on that defense? The way that they perform statistically, given the lack of talent, I mean, guys regressed. Granted, McKinney was an upgrade at safety. Edgerrin was an upgrade at linebacker. We regressed at corner. We regressed at defensive tackle. We regressed at edge. From a talent standpoint, they all went backward. And our defense massively improved. And he wasn't even able to run his defense. You know, Matt LaFleur talked about that. I had speculated it. Matt LaFleur essentially confirmed it. They wanted to run more of a Hafley defense. They wanted, you know, the middle field closed defense and all this different stuff, but they couldn't do it because they didn't have the guys to do it. So he has to run a completely different style of defense with a bunch of guys that are not built on this type of I mean, it's like a hybrid, his defense, but other, you know, especially the coverage, I think was the biggest thing. Obviously, it's a 4-3 defense, but and then to see the improvement over time, even with the players, you know, still not being premier. I mean, we saw the pass rushers get a little better, and Valentine had a little flurry of games there, as did Stokes. But I'm beyond impressed with how good of a job they did. I mean, look at the corner situation. Stokes and Valentine and Keyshawn Nixon, and we never had any like Kevin King or Ladarius Gunter moments. We never had any of these premier guys just carving us up. Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown. I mean, A.J. Brown did nothing. He's over on the sideline reading a book. How do you do that with no corners? Well, they were getting help. I don't give a damn. Like, okay, so it's that easy. Oh, yeah, just help them, and then everything's fine. Everything's perfect. Oh, wow, everyone else is an idiot for just not doing that randomly. I guess Joe Barry is the dumbest person. All he had to do was help him. Just give him help. I don't even know what that means, but just help him. It's based on the coverages and this. Okay, fine. But there's no one thing you just flip a switch and it's like, okay, everybody's covered and everything's perfect now. If it was that easy, everybody'd be doing it. So something is working. Something is working. I'm just incredibly impressed. And if there's anything we should be excited about, it's that. Because, you know, again, we talk about like the culture or this, that, or the other's bad. I don't think so. I think I'm excited about the guys we got, and I'm excited about the culture that we're building. I know that some people, I think, are going to need to be purged. We've heard Tucker talk about it. I didn't play that yet, but Tucker talk about it, and Jacobs talk about it. And good. You know, I mean, I'm a fan of Jair. I like Jair. But if you tell me definitively that he is part of that problem, I want him gone. Because he's not a part of what we're building, and he's not a part of the direction that I would like to take this team, talent or not. That's why, you know, same with like Tyreek Hill, super talented guy. But we're building something here, and it's just not right. It's just not the right piece. Watch us go do it now. But the culture of the defense, the attitude, the determination, the work ethic, the fact that the guys put in the work to learn the new thing. I mean, even Kenny, you know, Kenny's he's not what we had hoped he would have been. He started to fall off a long time ago, and it was a drastic fall off, and now he's just kind of like a guy. But he's stepped up, and you know, I mean, we weren't one of the top run defenses in football because everybody sucked and because nobody did their job. They did their jobs. And it's a massive credit to Hafley, however he did it. I mean, the ability to coach and teach and not only find a way to make the limited pieces that we have work, but to be able to coach it, right? It's the forgotten word in coaching is actual coaching. It's not just play calling. It's coming up with a plan. How do we make this work? And then relaying that plan to them and then making sure they're able to understand it and execute it. Phenomenal job. Imagine if we actually had some talent on that defense. No offense, right? Xavier's great. I'm hopeful for some of the guys. I mean, Bullard flashed at the end, and Evan Williams showed some flashes for sure, and I'm still hopeful for Rashawn. Maybe Wyatt, I mean, he's hanging in there, giving me just enough reason to hang on to hope for him. But man, if we could just go get some frickin' studs. I mean, the Max Crosby thing, it feels impossible, but so did Xavier McKinney, and so did, there were rumors Xavier McKinney might be. It's like, they're not going to let him go. That's stupid. And even if they did, he's not coming to Green Bay. I mean, the odds that we get him, give me a break. And then Josh Jacobs, like, they would be stupid to let Josh Jacobs go. You don't let a guy like that walk out the door. Which, by the way, that's the funny thing about the narrative. I forgot who said it. I know Packer Superfan is on a warpath on social media right now to make sure everybody knows that draft and develop is dead and everything. The only reason we got those guys is because teams abandoned draft and develop and cut their players. If they had actually held and maintained to that philosophy, we never would have had Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. So it's because people are abandoning that we're able to actually benefit from that. It's the only reason. If 32 teams held to that philosophy and they drafted players, and when they were good, they gave them contracts. I know, crazy philosophy over there for the Giants. It's a really weird thing. We should pay a bad quarterback and then cut our elite players. Saquon and Xavier McKinney. Then we would not be able to have the kind of luck that we're having. It's not even luck. I mean, I was impressed with what we did with Za'Darius, because Za'Darius did not show that level of talent, his ability to find that. Same with Preston. Amos, I think it was there, but it wasn't quite as obvious, and he came in here and he was a star. Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney, I mean, that's just swiping the credit card. I mean, that's being able to get the job done to have them pick you is really the only thing that's impressive about that. That was a done deal, slam dunk from day one.
We can make it better. But now it's draft time. We're going to be talking about the draft. I don't know if I'm going to even call in. I don't even know, because I know last year I didn't really look into your draft stuff. Let
me quickly implore you. Some of you are not interested in off-season stuff. You're not interested in the draft. Part of the reason why this is super depressing, I promise you, this is. I feel guilty saying how much I look forward to it, because it's like a funeral when the Packers lose in the playoffs. I mean, for me, it's like the season just started. The same way you get excited about like September, the football's finally back, draft season is finally back. I am unbelievably excited about this. If you can find a way to find joy in this and get excited about this, which I would encourage you to just start getting into it, start playing around with it, whatever. And, it's super easy to do it nowadays. There's a billion websites, and especially with AI and everything can pretty much fill you in pretty quickly. It's a great way to continue enjoying football year round. I mean, there's a very brief period of time where you don't have an opportunity to enjoy football. Other than that, it's pretty much a year round deal.
I usually care about that kind of stuff, but maybe I do now.
Yes.
Maybe I do. Because I'm more of the Milwaukee Brewers, baseball season. I love baseball. Right. I literally watch like every game. Not kidding. I think last year I missed like 12, 15 games out of 162. So,
fair enough.
I might need to start my own podcast for that.
You should.
So I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you do Packernet After Dark with the draft and like take calls and stuff. I mean, if you do, I'll call in and give my thoughts. I don't know. I don't put too much thought into draft. Like, nothing I say will matter, because the Packers are going to draft who they draft, and if something's got to give, man. What is it going to take, man? What is it going to take to stop doing this? We're the Green Bay Packers. We're not some freaking chummy team who's just happy to be there. Which is what it looked like tonight. Like, we were just happy to be there. Oh, we're here. Oh, let's just kind of do whatever. I'm so annoyed, man. I'm so freaking annoyed.
I know. Well, I would, encourage you. I mean, first of all, go ahead and start your Brewers podcast. That'd be a good way to have something to do. But I would also still encourage you to start looking into the draft. This would be a good spot to do it. You just call in and be like, hey, who's somebody to look at, or, hey, I was checking out this person or whatever. And that's what it's about, man. And the fun thing is everybody kind of starts to identify their own guy. It doesn't really matter. None of us are GMs. We're all going to be wrong a lot of the time, but you're going to watch tape on guys, and there's going to be certain people that just click in your head. And for everybody else, it's like, I don't know, he's okay, he's not that. But for you, it's just like, no, you shut your mouth. This is my guy. So, like, for me, I had 2 edge rushers that I really liked that were my favorite guys, Chop Robinson and Braylon Trice. Now, everybody kind of likes Chop Robinson. He's an end-of-the-first-round guy, but that was my guy. Now, he looks fantastic. So, boom, nailed that one. Braylon Trice, I haven't heard his name once. And then there's other guys that, you don't like that ended up panning out. There was a lineman that I just, as soon as I watched him, I'm like, bro, this is my guy, and it was Zach Frazier. Guess who the best rookie center in football is? Zach Frazier. Frickin' boom. Not Graham Barton, not Jackson Powers Johnson, not Cooper Beebe. It's Zach frickin' Frazier, baby. It's just exciting, man. And, we can, we'll have to do something. If there's people that are kind of new to it and are not really interested, just call in and we'll figure some stuff out. There's a lot of ways. If you want some websites to look at, if you just want to kind of take it casually, the best way, just type in the person's name on YouTube and then put in VS next to it, verse. And you could just do highlights. That's a good way to start if you just want to get excited about somebody. Or put in the verse and it'll show you college games with clips of just that player. And then if you really want to do the all 22 thing, I do have a source for you. I don't know if they're supposed to be doing that. I feel like there's been other sources that have been shut down, so I don't want to just blast it out to the world. But it's just a guy on Patreon that uploads, he has a spreadsheet you can click on. It's very cool. If you're interested, you got to pay for it, but it's not much, and you get to watch prospects if you want to go down that road. But I am good and fired up about it. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a good rest of your day. We have a bunch of calls, but I know the calls are going to slow, so just keep them coming. We'll eventually get caught up and taper, and, not a big deal. It's not like the regular season where we got to hurry up and do all this stuff. We got a lot of time to go through all this crap. All right, I'm out of here. Have a good one. Bye-bye.